What factors are going to affect future supply chain? I was looking at this issue at the same time that Apex was. We identified 7 factors. We identified the aging of developed workforce. I'm going to talk about that because there's some very important implications. We're going to talk about energy volatility, the shift of purchasing power to the east, the Internet of Things. One of the things that we're starting to see develop in the States is the experiential supply chain, which is the supply chain is no longer the product, it's the experience. We're going to talk about autonomous and digital and then cybersecurity. For people, if I was in anything right now, I think cybersecurity would become a very attractive issue because supply chains are becoming very information rich. And there's evidence that companies and countries are compromising it. And in the States, cybersecurity has become a very important issue. Your role is to help people understand all of these costs. What is understanding what they want? How do you design the product to accommodate that? How do you buy from it? Because sometimes what you find is when customers want, you're buying small quantities, which are driving up the price. If you don't make the customer aware of these costs, guess what and you say yes, what have you said the cost is? Zero.
Yeah.
And in fact, this is because you're now buying less. Then you have to build it, which means stocking the parts, putting them on. Then you have to worry about the fact, do the parts, remember, it's like on a car, you have a power belt. Every time I put a new accessory, that draws power off the power belt. At some point, you have no more power. Or at some point, the parts don't work. And then finally, when it gets in the field, what happens? And what people are saying is complexity is yes, but our role is to help managers understand the cost of complexity. This is really important because there's a new concept calling end-of-life risk. What's that? When the product comes to the end of life, how do you support it? Good example, the A10A Warthog, the Lightning, which was developed in 1972, finished production in 1979. It's still being used because it's the best airplane for busting tanks. All of the suppliers who were there in 1979 to build it are gone. So what do you do? By the way, what you're also picking up that's becoming new is our awareness of risk has really broadened. And we're going to pick up how risk is becoming very different, very comprehensive. So you're now starting to see that this is why when I look at supply chains, I claim we're right there, we're at the point of inflection. The supply chain is changing. There's a question, one of the most interesting questions that Carol is bringing up is a simple 5-word question. What's the desired outcome? What do you want to achieve? Now, let me tell you why that's important. Metrics are driven by the desired outcome. Metrics are made up front. They're not, and most of the time, when do we make our measures? Afterwards. And what do we measure? What we're good at doing. So what I've done is, when I work with companies, I always start by asking the question, what's the desired outcome? And then I use that to drive the measurements. Because the measurements should do what? They should reflect and communicate the desired outcome. For example, if I measure, if my vision is quality, but I have 400 cost measures, what am I really telling people the critical issue is?
What's the only relevant capacity? Is the bottlenecks, right? So now I've converted all my buffers to stored time and capacity, and what am I watching? I'm doing it in a run chart. Can I make a projection that my lead times are going to go up? Have they gone up yet?
No.
No. Well, what's happened? I'm trending down, and it's giving me a very early warning signal that says your amount of stored capacity off your bottleneck is declining. There's only 2 ways for that to happen. One, the capacity of my bottleneck has deteriorated or my demand has increased. It's the only two ways to do it. So what it gives you is, because of the operational metrics, because of these three metric objectives of looking at reliability, stability, and speed, in a run chart format, you get an early warning system to project near-term future. Because if you don't do something about this situation, don't be surprised when it breaks. So DDMRP gives you, with the metrics suite that we've given you, the objectives, gives you the early warning system if you look at the relevant information. That's what DDSNOP is, because now I've got my run charts, that I know that the amount of stored capacity that I have off my bottleneck is increasing. So what does that tell me? I have an opportunity in my DDSNOP process to bring to my integrated reconciliation team. I have an opportunity for promotion. Because remember, just as complex adaptive systems are understood by their connections, all this new stuff we're giving you about the demand-driven adaptive enterprise is not understood by the big blocks. It's understood by understanding the lines. So what you've got, if you notice, you've got a model. How's it running? Closed loop variance analysis. What's coming out of the model configurations? The tactical exploitation opportunities. Because this tells me that I've got demand that is declining. I have opportunity in my bottleneck to tactically exploit my bottleneck, because now I can go out and I can sell more of it, because what I can see is I'm trending upwards. Early warning system. DDSNOP is, think of it as a coupler between the demand-driven operating model and adaptive SNOP. Near-term history, short-term future. This gives you tactical exploitation opportunities. For those of you that have taken the DDL, this is where we go through the RS model. All right, I got products P and Q. I'm running them both across the bottleneck. I can't produce everything. So I'm going to give preference to the thing that gives me the highest contribution margin per unit of capacity. Ellie didn't invent that. He just renamed it. He called it throughput per constraint unit. All right, the guy that invented it was F. Donaldson Brown in 1934. All right, understanding contribution margin per unit of constrained capacity is the way a company will profit maximize. So that means that out of my model configuration, I now have an understanding better of capacity, which gives me my tactical exploitation opportunities. And conversely, what not to sell. That's my input to my demand plan, which gives me my opportunity for promotion and line extensions back to the business plan. That's why DDSNOP, and according to DEC, that's what's been missing in SNOP. There has never been a direct connection from the strategy to operations in traditional SNOP. What was the only connection we had? Master production schedule. And the master production schedule tries to make future certain. And what do we know about the future? Anything but certain.
Many years ago, we found that customer service exists at 3 levels. The first level is, did you meet the contract? The second level, did you exceed the contract? The third level, did you help the customer succeed? That's what you're going to. Customer satisfaction is at the second level. The third level is, did you help the customer succeed? That is, did you help the customer serve his or her customer better? Yeah. That's a different thinking. That's what we're trying to see in the experiential. And what you're getting customers to do is to say, doing better than the contract is good, but it's not best. Your goal is to, for example, if you're working with a supplier to Airbus, what should you be helping that supplier to Airbus do? Not exceed the contract, but help Airbus succeed.
Yeah, and improving.
Okay, that's a different thinking method, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. That's why the question that was asked early by you, what does the future supply chain manager look like? In the past, I gave an article that's just appeared in Supply Chain Management Review where I thought about this. And in the article, we talked about the traditional supply chain manager lives within his world. The new supply chain manager has to be good at working, we call it at the edges. They have to be good at working with finance, working with engineering. working with marketing. Why? Because what marketing does will affect us. So what do we have to do? We have to teach marketing what we are good at doing, what we're not good, so that they don't take the wrong order. We had a CEO we interviewed, and he makes the equipment that you see, that, you know, things like the channel will be boarded. He makes that big equipment. And you know how they make money? They don't make money on the equipment, they make money on the service.
Ouais.
I mean, spare parts, maintenance. For example, if this is a Gillette model. If you sell the machine for €1, you get 10 euros in service. Guess what? Get the 10 euros. What happened is marketing came in and they put 7 big orders, almost no service. And guess what? They flooded the capacity, and they found that they couldn't serve the customers who were paying the service. And at the end of it, the marketing person came to the CEO and said, I think we did something wrong, didn't we?
We had a company in Colombia, make to order coffee bean bags, printed to order. The market was at 4 weeks. They went to a week. Sales said, wahoo, we can sell same price a week. You can just imagine demand went boom, right? Capacity did what? Didn't go up. Capacity was the same. Now, how far could they push? They doubled the revenue in the plant before they broke it. But it's not an incremental, it is not, it's one thing, it's always remember, capacity and performance is not linear. It'll go up, and then what happens is it breaks. Because the next chunk of capacity's got to be added this way. So you got to add that capacity as the revenue grows. So when you hit that wall, you hit the wall. It's like being, when you arrive at the train station, as long as you're on the platform 2 minutes before, you're great. 2 minutes later, you're screwed. It's gone. Right? Airplane, same way.
No.
There's a wall that you go over. So it's the same way with capacity. So what happened was the company died. They had too many orders, and they didn't deliver what they promised to the client. All right, why? Bad management. Steve's spot on. It's about the management. It wasn't about the operating model. It was about how the operating model was exploited, so that now they were delivering for the same price in a week. They disrupted the whole marketplace. This is why we are now working and why we're releasing DDS&OP. DDS&OP, remember, is a process accomplished by the integrated reconciliation team, so that sales and marketing can understand what is now possible. And now how do we segment a market? So in case, like say our market's a 3-week market, what price can we get if we deliver in 2 weeks? What price can we get if we deliver in a week? Okay, what is the incremental revenue that we can charge if we deliver 2 weeks or 1 week? What maximizes our return on investment?